Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm making some fan art for a movie that everyone and their mother has been talking about recently, and that's K-pop Demon Hunters. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend watching it, especially if you love music and K-pop or shows like Totally Spies, Sailor Moon, Powerpuff Girls, stuff like that. You should also watch the movie before watching this video if you care about spoilers, because I'm probably going to talk about some of the storylines and give a bit of my own review on it. So, the first thing I want to say is, I love this movie. Everything from the soundtrack to the animation to the designs felt so rich and detailed. And I think it's stuff like this that resonates so well with the audience and makes it so popular. When you can feel the love and the care that the artists, writers, actors, etc. have for the project through their work, that's when it shines the brightest. I suppose it makes a difference that I've been seeing a lot of the concept artists and animators share the work they've done for the movie on social media. And I know a lot of people who watched and liked K-pop Demon Hunters were also fans of Arcane and the Spider-Verse films. And one thing these projects have in common is that they weren't afraid to do something new with the animation and the style. Each one has a very unique style and design quality to them that make them stand out from some other mainstream animations. For K-pop Demon Hunters, I like the exaggerated movements and expressions, and using comic-style humor, especially like the crying popcorn scene when HUNTRIX first saw the Saja Boys. Not to compare, but I am totally comparing. For a brand that essentially pioneered the animation industry, a lot of Disney films nowadays seem to be lacking in the impact that the studio used to carry. Many of their films are blatantly recycled works, sequels, or projects that seem like they are set up to fail by barely having any promotion at all. Personally, the last animated film I really enjoyed from Disney was Encanto in 2021, which felt like it was driven by love for the Colombian culture and history, something that I think is incredibly important in making media resonate with its audience. Perhaps it's because at the end of the day, Disney is a multi-billion-dollar business focused on making more money, that their art is suffering. But of course, the other projects I've mentioned before are also backed by huge companies like Sony, Netflix, and Marvel, so I think Disney really needs to step up their game. Okay, but I've talked enough about these companies. Let me get into the actual movie and this drawing. So for this piece, I was kind of inspired by the end scene of the HUNTRIX girls letting loose and strolling through the streets, finally taking their well-deserved break. I also wanted to challenge myself a bit and put an actual background, something I very rarely do because I don't think I'm good at it, but I have to start practicing somewhere. I have to say, I was inspired by seeing the very good concept art for this movie, so here we are. I also had to include the Derpy Tiger and Sussy the Crow, because, dare I say, they were the true stars of this movie. I love them so much, and with Derpy being a reverse stereotype on cats that like knocking things over, I thought that was so cute. On the other hand, I did not care for the Saja Boys. I don't know, I think that might seem weird for me, because in real life I am mostly a boy group fan, but maybe it's because the movie is very clear telling us that they're the bad guys. Now, don't get me wrong, the songs and the singing were very good, especially the song Your Idol, but I guess there wasn't a lot of time spent on the boys other than Jinu. Which kind of brings me to my only critique for this movie. And that is, I really wish it was longer. Maybe even if it was a TV show instead of a movie. It felt like there were a few scenes missing, or that there could have been a little extra information. For example, like I mentioned earlier, who are the other Saja Boys? They look more like humans that became demons, like Jinu. And so do they also have some interesting backstory? There's been a lot of speculation among fans that they were the group in Dr. Han's office that sold their soul for success, or something in a similar vein. I don't necessarily think the movie needed to go super in-depth with them, but maybe a little extra insight to their characters outside of their idol personas. I also wanted to know more about Roomie's parents. They were barely talked about despite the fact that Roomie's entire arc around her shame about her identity was because she was the daughter of a hunter and a demon. I just found it odd that Roomie doesn't really address this. It seems like the type of situation where she might blame her parents for the way she is, or at the very least have some kind of complicated feelings about them. By extension, I think the scenes with Celine, the hunter's mentor, were too short as well. Roomie does express some resentment towards Celine just before the final battle, but I wish there was a bit more build-up to that confrontation. Also, did anyone else think it was really abrupt when Roomie seemed to be going all dark side when she met with Celine, only to come back and rebuild the Hunmun in the next scene she was in? Again, I want to remind everyone that I really love this movie, and probably most of my critiques are generally based on the fact that I want to see more from this world and these characters. I think the themes of facing your shame and doubts about yourself, and learning to accept yourself and your mistakes, and trusting your friends to support and help you are so important and relevant. Especially the dialogue between the girls and between Roomie and Jinu were written so well and realistically, not to mention the lyrics for the entire soundtrack were genius. The song we couldn't write, This Is What It Sounds Like, please, I was crying on my couch over these girls and their beautiful friendship. I will definitely be rewatching this movie and hoping that they make a sequel. Let me know what you thought of this movie and who your HUNTRIX bias is in the comments. And also, like and subscribe to see more of my art and follow me on Instagram at KaylinVerse. And you can support me with money through donations on Ko-fi or checking out my Redbubble. I recently designed a Derpy Tiger backpack, so check that out too. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.